I still remember that day like it just happened, the day my car broke down and my life changed forever. It was raining, cold, and miserable. My windshield wipers squeaked with every pass, and I was late for an important meeting that I honestly didn't even care about. Life had been dull for months. Ever since my fiancée walked out on me, saying she needed to find herself, I had been moving like a machine, working, eating, sleeping, repeating. Nothing excited me anymore. Nothing made sense. I was just existing. But fate, I've learned, doesn't care about your schedule. It knows when to interrupt your life, and it always does it for a reason. That morning, I was driving on a quiet highway when I felt that familiar thud, the one every driver dreads. My tire had gone flat. I pulled over, frustrated, rain pouring down, and sat there gripping the steering wheel, wondering why the universe hated me so much. I got out of the car, opened the trunk, and realized I didn't even have a spare. Perfect. I stood there, rain soaking through my jacket, just staring at the useless rubber tire like it had personally betrayed me. That's when I saw headlights slowing down behind me. A small blue pickup truck pulled over, and out stepped a woman wearing a faded brown jacket and jeans. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, and even under the grey clouds, she seemed to carry a kind of light. She walked toward me with a confident stride, holding an umbrella. "Need some help?" she asked, voice calm, eyes full of warmth. I hesitated. I didn't want to look helpless, but the truth was, I was. "Yeah, flat tire, no spare," I said, trying to laugh it off. She smiled. "Good thing I've got both." Before I could protest, she popped open the back of her truck, grabbed a toolkit, and knelt beside my car. I stood there, useless and amazed, watching the stranger take charge like it was no big deal. Her hands moved fast, sure, and strong. The rain didn't seem to bother her. "You're awfully prepared for a day like this," I said, half joking. She looked up, wiping a drop of rain off her cheek. "My dad taught me. He said if you're going to drive, you should know how to save yourself too." Something about that sentence stuck with me. Maybe because I hadn't saved myself in a long time. When she was done, I thanked her awkwardly, still trying to process how someone could be that kind and that calm in such a miserable moment. She smiled again, a smile that, somehow, felt like sunshine through the clouds. "I'm Grace," she said, extending her hand. "Daniel," I replied, shaking it. "You should get a spare tire soon, Daniel," she teased, then waved goodbye and drove off. I stood there, rain still falling, but for the first time in months. I smiled. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Not in a romantic way, not yet, but in the way you think about someone who reminded you what decency looks like. A stranger who appeared out of nowhere, helped you, and disappeared just as quickly. I wanted to see her again, but I didn't know how. 2 days later, fate intervened again. I was at a small local diner grabbing coffee before work, when I heard a familiar laugh. I turned around, and there she was. Grace. Same jacket, same light in her eyes. She was sitting alone by the window, reading something on her phone. I hesitated for a second but then walked over. "You know, I was starting to think you were just a figment of my imagination," I said. She looked up, surprised, then grinned. "Daniel, right? The guy with the flat tire and no spare." "Guilty," I said, laughing. She motioned for me to sit, and just like that, it felt easy. Conversation flowed naturally. I learned that Grace was a mechanic. She owned a small auto shop in town, one she'd inherited from her father after he passed away 2 years ago. She spoke about him with a soft fondness, the kind you only use for people who shaped your soul. We talked for hours. About life, loss, work, and the little things that make days bearable, coffee, books, and music that doesn't make sense until you've been through heartbreak. When we finally said goodbye, she handed me a card with her shop's name on it. "Just in case you get another flat," she said, smiling. "Or in case I want better coffee," I replied. She laughed, that too. Weeks passed, and I found reasons, excuses, to visit her shop. Sometimes it was for a minor tune-up, sometimes just to bring her lunch. Each visit felt like sunlight after a long winter. Grace was different from anyone I'd ever met. She didn't try to impress. She didn't play games. She was just real. She listened. She cared. She had this quiet strength that drew you in. One evening, I found her closing the shop, wiping grease off her hands. "You work too hard," I said. She looked at me and shrugged. "Work keeps me grounded. After my dad passed, I almost gave up. But fixing cars, it keeps me close to him." I nodded. "You know, you're kind of like a mechanic for people too." She tilted her head. "What do you mean?" You fix things, even the things you can't see. Her eyes softened. You, for example. Maybe, I said, smiling. That night, I asked her to dinner. She hesitated, then said yes. Our first date wasn't fancy, just burgers, laughter, and long walks by the water. But it felt right. She made me forget the weight I'd been carrying. She didn't fill the silence, she made it peaceful. And as time passed, I realized something. I didn't want to just be healed, I wanted to stay healed, with her. But life, as always, had other plans. One evening, Grace showed up at my place, tears in her eyes. Her shop's lease was ending, and the new landlord had doubled the rent. She couldn't afford to keep it. It broke her. That shop was her father's legacy. I wanted to help, but she refused. It's my fight, she said. So I did something she didn't expect. The next morning, I went to the landlord myself. I offered to buy the space, not for profit, but for her. It took everything I had saved, but when she found out, she was furious. Why would you do that without asking me? She cried. Because I couldn't just stand by and watch you lose the only thing that keeps you going. She turned away. You don't get it, Daniel. I don't need to be saved. Her words cut deep, and for the first time since I'd met her, I walked away. Days passed in silence. I kept checking her shop. It was open, but she wouldn't talk to me. Until one evening, I found a letter taped to my door. It read, Daniel, you were right. I was afraid, not of losing the shop, but of needing someone again. I've spent so long fixing everything around me that I forgot it's okay to let someone fix me too. Thank you for reminding me that kindness isn't weakness, it's love in its truest form. Grace. I don't remember the last time I ran that fast. I went straight to her shop. She was there, sitting on the hood of a car, smiling through tears. You forgot to check your tire pressure, she said. I laughed, breathless. I think my heart pressure's worse. She smiled, and that was the moment everything shifted. She stepped closer, and before I could say a word, she kissed me. And just like that, the rain outside didn't feel cold anymore. It's been 2 years since that day. The shop is thriving, and Grace still scolds me for not changing my oil on time. But every time I see her, hair tied up, hands greasy, humming to herself, I remember that rainy morning. The day a stranger stopped to fix my tire and ended up fixing something much deeper. Sometimes fate doesn't come as a miracle. Sometimes it comes as a woman in a brown jacket, holding an umbrella, asking if you need help. And if you're lucky, you'll say yes.